I have enough experience with the PI or PI attorneys to know that it's almost impossible to say that I'm going to produce a demand for you that you just is fully meets your requirement, your standards, your performance, and you just basically send that to the adjuster and you get your money. It's not at all. It's all about reducing the cost, expediting the time, so you don't have a backlog of 15 demands that you're not getting to do, which stops the cash flow for the firm. No demand, no offer, no offer, no settlement, no settlement, no check. So
I just had this conversation with my team, and I joke. I'm like, guys, do you like getting paid every week, every other week? I know I do, but the only way to do that is to make sure that everything else is working in order, in the way the system says it should be working. And that's part of that is getting the records in, getting them analyzed, getting them into a demand, and getting them out the door.
Hello, everyone. This is Hamid Kohan. I'm the president and CEO of LegalSoft, and also a new company that was launched about a couple of years ago, Practice AI. Very excited to talk about the AI implementation in the legal industry. It's been coming for a while. I published a book over a year ago about the AI, but now everything is coming to reality very quickly, very fast. And it's my pleasure to also have Lee Rudin, litigation attorney, personal injury from Louisiana. Lead, thanks for joining us. I know you've been with LegalSoft for a while, and I know you do a lot of personal injury litigation in Louisiana and many other states, I know, but your home base is Louisiana. So thank you for joining us today. So Lee, you're basically the new generation with the personal injury. You've been practicing for a few years. You've been involved in virtual law practices and virtual staffing, and now we're working with you to bring AI into the practice in any shape or form we can. We have a very extensive roadmap for the AI implementation, especially in personal injury. But because of the market and what's everybody's, we started by personal injury demands, which usually starts with the document collections and the medical record summary and chronologies and so forth, and then go into the demand. So first of all, let me ask you, what do you think about impact of the AI in the law practice to begin with? What is your impression? What you've seen?
So it's complicated, right? Because AI is a tool, and you see the sexy headlines are where lawyers are getting in trouble with AI because they're forgetting that it's just a means to get you where you want to go. But that's no different than an assistant or an associate attorney. You wouldn't just give them the keys to the car and say, drive it, unless you knew that they had gone to driving school or you took them out on the road once or twice. And you certainly wouldn't get behind the wheel with them or let them get behind the wheel and you sit in the passenger seat without knowing that they've done a couple things before. And I think AI is no different. So when you look at it in that way, it can be one of the greatest tools in our tool belt. But you got to know that it still requires some human scrutiny at some point.
Exactly. No, that's very well put. I never thought about it from comparing it to the staff, where if you're going to trust every single staff 100% and everything they do, you could just stay home and not even come to work because the world would be perfect.
Wouldn't our life be easier, Hamid, if everything that everybody else did was done perfectly the way we wanted to all the time?
Absolutely. I love that that comparison because I didn't think of it as comparing it to the human being, which is by far we're not perfect. And especially in the field of law, when you get in newcomers and a new paralegal, even if they had experience other places, doesn't mean they know everything and they do things perfectly. So AI compares with that perfectly. That yes, is a great tool. You have to use it to the extent that you can improve on it. The good thing about the AI, Lida, that you did the comparison between human being, is that it does learn continuously and it learns pretty well. Even though nowadays they come about hallucinations and mistakes and so forth, which is going to get taken care of over time, but it still is a tool that it learns a lot on a continuous basis. And it becomes more and more and more helpful over time. So I definitely see that going in. Is also you mentioned about, it's complicated. It's very complicated. Actually, I completely agree. So it's very important where the tool was developed, how it was developed, how much expertise went in there to develop it, what the focus is. And the danger part of also in the other end is that they they come up with the new ones almost daily now, and they're all very vertically oriented. Like this AI does this thing, and that AI does that thing, and then the firm need the whole thing, and you can't subscribe, learn, and implement like 8 different tools in the law practice. It's just not practical. That's one of the reasons we created the law practice AI, because we said we want to bring the clients into one place that gives them all AI tools that they need for their law practice. Our roadmap starts from even helping to generate the client via the AI. Then our next product that we're getting released in about 90 days is actually a personal injury AI intaker, which knows how to escalate, it knows how to answer the questions, knows when and how to transfer the call to the attorney, because this is a 7-figure case.
I
And
want to
I'm not going
I
to
want to
lose
see
it.
it work. Hamid, it's funny because I've talked to you ad nauseum about this. A lot of the folks on your team. I've talked to everybody in all the verticals, right? So there's the medical vertical's been out for a long time. Med summaries, med crons. That's getting to be pretty good.
Right.
As long as you know what you're getting, right? It's not a nurse paralegal staring at it and telling you, hey, this is important, but it's getting pretty smart. When folks have said to me, oh, I have an AI chatbot that can do the intake, I said, I'd like to see how it works. Because if it works effectively, and all it has to do is convert a little better than your human.
Yes.
Because in the end, the cost of the human is worth it if they're converting. If they're not, then you're saying I'm throwing money down the drain. All my leads are falling through the leaky bucket. But if it does what it can do, you can't beat the cost.
No, absolutely. And Lee, I was actually surprised because, I come from a tech industry before I come from a legal industry. So this is a perfect marriage for me to, I spent 25 years in tech, hopefully 20 years in legal. Merging them together makes a perfect marriage for me because now I get to use the entire set of experience. When they told me about the intake AI, I was like, yeah, right. They're going to miss my cases and I'm not going to be able to retain them. I'm going to lose them and all of that stuff. So me and one of my partners, who you also know, we tried an intake AI for consumer protection cases, not personal injury, but consumer protection. And last month, we successfully retained 100 clients with 100% intake AI, which was incredible. I couldn't believe it. That actually worked.
I wonder though. Now, I'm not in consumer protection, so I don't know how personal. I'm personal injury, right? There, that
Right.
name there, it has a double meaning
Right.
because a lot of folks they call. I mean, they're mostly calling on their worst day
Right.
or the day after their worst day, and sometimes they need to just be consoled, and that's part of the selling process. Obviously, that's not happening with AI. However, some people don't care. Some people, they just want to get signed up and get the ball rolling because they've done this before. Yeah, they're hurt, but they know what's coming. So the scare factor of the unknown doesn't exist for them.
Sure. That's what we tried it with the consumer protection because it's an easier process to go through. It's pretty straightforward. It's like what kind of a car you have, when did you buy it, what kind of problem you have with it, how many times you took it for repairs, and all of that stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not the same as personal injury. Like, did you go to emergency room? Did you have a procedure already? All that stuff is, so we are taking our time on the personal injury, but we always like to try it on something that is a little less risky or easier to achieve, to test it out before you go into personal injury. After personal injury, the biggest challenge going to be use the AI intaker for employment law, because employment law is, it starts with the story. There is not much of a fact to begin with, so you gotta take the story. It's almost like somebody at the bar had a few drinks and just chatting with you, and you want to make a case out of it, right? So that's going to be a bigger challenge, but The PI, which is our focus right now, from both intake and medical chronology, and even with the medical summary, we started with the medical summary. I think you already used our system. It was pretty sort of straightforward medical documentation, but it moved on to police reports and lab works and a lot of different documentation that needed to be scanned in and be able to analyze and summarize. So I know you use this system. What was your experience on the first try with the practice AI?
So I think you know that when I used your system, gosh, it had to be 9 months ago, a year ago. And I said to your team, I said, it's doing a good job. It's just not what I want in a demand. I was on the defense side for so many years.
Right.
And I remember the first demand that I could tell was created by somebody outside the law firm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 40 pages and 38 of them were crap. I said, I don't need 3,000 ICD codes because
Right.
20 of them go to the one injury. Just tell me what the injury was. And then I want to know the summary of the medical bills. If you give me a one pager of the treatment, because really it's the high level stuff that's going to move the needle. I don't need to know every single chiropractic visit, but I do need to know that they got referred for the MRI and then they went and got the treatment. What was that treatment? Where are they now? Or is it all done? So I told your team way back when, I said, this is too much. Now, more recently, I actually just finished one with you folks last night.
Oh,
and
okay.
I thought it was much tighter. Now, I still cut it down a little bit more, but that's more of a stylistic thing as opposed to a content, whether the content was there. So I was happy with it. I also saw that you guys had, there were some citations incorporated in it, which I thought were helpful. You know, the one thing I haven't yet seen from anybody is a quantum analysis or comparison. Now it's hard because you gotta have the jury verdicts or appellate decisions in Louisiana at your disposal. But the person that can tell me when I give them 7 data points on injuries and the jurisdiction that can go pull a case that has comparable data points and a dollar figure, tell me how much you want.
Right, exactly.
What's the demand cost?
Yes, it goes back to what we started saying about the demands or any kind of a work that needs final supervision. Anybody who comes out and says, "Oh, I'm going to give you a demand that every PI attorney nationwide wants and accepts it and just close their eyes and moves forward with it," is crazy. This is no such thing. I worked with probably about 1,000 law firms, and I haven't seen even 2 PI attorneys who can agree on the demand, the format of it, or the content of it, or the length of it.
Wait a minute. That's not true, because I guarantee you every PI attorney would say, just put policy limits over there. We're all good with that, especially if they pay it.
Yeah, that part
part.
I'll agree on. But when it
That's
goes
right.
to page 21, they're like, no, I don't like the page 21. My demand should only be 15 pages, not 21
Sure.
pages. So the way we position this product with us, having the experience with so many PI attorneys, is to make your process more efficient and cut back on the time that you or your paralegal, your associate has to spend on the demand. So if you're spending, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours or 6 hours doing the medical summary and writing a demand and having the attorney review it, if I can cut that back to an hour or less or half an hour, now I got something because I just saved you 4 hours per demand. So if you're doing 10 demands, I saved you 40 hours.
I think that's the selling point, right? And that's where a lot of companies are missing the boat, because now having done this recent iteration of your tool, that's exactly what it does. If you think it's going to spit out the end product, right, you're probably missing it, but it does save you a whole bunch of time to get you to the end product.
Yeah, that's the whole point, because again, when I have enough experience with the PI or PI attorneys to know that it's almost impossible to say that I'm going to produce a demand for you that you just is fully meets your requirement, your standards, your performance, and you just basically send that to the adjuster and you get your money. It's not at all. It's all about reducing the cost, expediting the time, so you don't have a backlog of 15 demands that you're not getting to do, which stops the cash flow for the firm. No demand, no offer, no offer, no settlement, no settlement, no check. So
I just had this conversation with my team, and I joke. I'm like, guys, do you like getting paid every week, every other week? I know I do, but the only
right.
way to do that is to make sure that everything else is working in order, in the way the system says it should be working, and that's part of that is getting them records in, getting them analyzed, getting them into a demand, and getting them out the door.
You won't believe it, Lee. I worked with a firm that at one point they had 128 demands backlog. So imagine, and this is a good sized firm. So these demands are not minimum policy either. And it's like, imagine 128 demands backlog. This is several $1,000,000 that are not coming to the firm that firm could use not only to pay the bills, also for expansion and marketing and so forth. So I'm like, what do you do?
But think about, take it another step further. How many disappointed clients, frustrated clients do you have because they're
Yes.
done treating and they're just waiting for the next domino to fall, which is the best domino? Hey, we have an offer, we have money. You can't even give them that great news because you haven't figured out how to do your job efficiently.
Exactly. We had the same challenge when I started the LegalSoft with virtual staffing, which some people misunderstood and thought that I'm telling them to get rid of every in-house person, don't hire any more in-house person, and I'm going to give you virtual staff globally. That wasn't the message. The message is a lot of work needs to be done in the office that the virtual staff can do perfectly and with much less cost, much faster, no employment liabilities and so forth. But that doesn't say you don't have internal staff either, but you just reduce that. It's all about efficiency, effectiveness, cost reduction, is all this stuff. AI is now following the same path. I'm not saying, oh, just let us do all your demands or medical summaries or intake. Even when I talked about the intake, I'm not saying that nobody in the office, including the attorneys, should not answer the phone. I'm just saying that a lot of screening can be done, a lot of outbound. Like if you're a lead generation, you know that when you're getting 100 leads, at the best you can get a hold of 10 of them. The other 90, you just have to keep hammering, texting, calling, emailing, whatever. Yeah, the AI can do that, so I can expedite your process for you. So instead of having a 10% conversion from your leads, I can make it 25% conversion. I'm not saying, basically turn off your phone and let this AI do the whole thing. It's the same thing with demand, with the medical record, with everything that we are bringing to the table for AI is to help reduce the cost, increase efficiency and effectiveness.
I've got it the other way, Hamid. I mean, you know how I feel about virtual staffing. I'm all for it. I think, because of the way I came out and started this firm, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I needed AI and I needed all the tech tools at my disposal and virtual staff because I was coming out, starting to build the house brick by brick. But my latest rumination is I should get staff that starts at 5 p.m. my time. They're working, maybe they're in the Philippines and they're working their own time. So they're not working on my clock and we just hand the baton off. So maybe it's a demand that my team has set up. They can then work overnight, have it back to us in the morning. It's not a day lost. We just kept the day going all 24 hours.
24/7 practice. Practice of PI is 24/7. There is no holidays. There's no weekend. Actually, holidays and weekends are a spike into signups because people are traveling, drinking, partying, whatever, a lot of stuff. So to me, when people say, oh, after sort of 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., I'm just turning on my answering service, which is some random person with no incentive or training, basically is taking your 7-figure client call coming in at 9 p.m. on the Saturday, right? So I don't believe that stuff. It needs to be dedicated, bilingual, trained, managed, incentivized staff that is going to take those calls because this is those calls that makes or breaks the firm.
Yep. No, I mean, I'm with you. The hardest part is those after hours staffing, the weekend staffing. I'm going through it now, just trying to figure out the right balance. When do you pull the trigger because you have the volume of leads that warrant it? But I'm with you.
It started out with virtual staffing and then virtual sort of marketing supports. And now is like the AI to just complement those other initiatives. So you can run a lean, mean practice that doesn't have those obstacles and limitations of the cost, staff, scheduling, employee relationships and liabilities.
You mentioned the employer liability, but the whole HR, some of the bottleneck that comes with HR issues, you remove a lot of that if you're not
Right.
bloated in domestic staff. I'm not saying I'm with you. I'm not saying don't have it. I have folks down, on the other side of that wall, but my team's
Right.
global now.
No, exactly. That's I have law practices in California that have excess of 120 virtual staff from LegalSoft that had imagine 125 virtual staff spread around the practice. I almost feel like I'm partner with them because I brought up those.
Well, I joke, Hamid. I have, so my team is 8 now. I said myself, and 7 others. I said I need to get one more, so when we're on the Zoom call, we're like the Brady Bunch. You just got to figure out which box you're sitting in.
Exactly. Any suggestions about the AI? Because I know you've been on it. You've been a big advocate on moving to AI. I think we're on the same page that AI is not 100% thing, but is a huge time saver and brings efficiency and effectiveness. We tried this in one firm that had about 16 demands to go out. And we found out on Friday morning. And by Friday afternoon, all 16 went out at firm to the adjusters in one day. And it probably took like 4 or 5 hours to do it. And it cost them like $100 each. So it was like I think we made them a few, 6 figures. Yeah.
A little bit of money. Good return on investment no, I think your price point can't be beat. I haven't seen a demand offering for that price. And so, again, to the points that we made earlier, once the product comes in, especially for what you're paying for it, you do your massaging and all of a sudden you've saved all this time. I had a conversation with Dylan on your team, and he told me this is a component of your product that's about to be rolled out. But I said, you're giving me the Ferrari. If I say to you, I want the skinny version, right? I want the sport version. Can you take the 16-page demand and get it down to 4? And he's like, yeah, we're working on something that's just tighter. Meaning if you don't like all of this, or your insurance company doesn't need all of this, here's the other version that's got a paragraph on liability, a page on damages, and a synopsis. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's like ordering pizza, a small, medium, or large, or jumbo. And that's, I think, we're setting up our demands to be, because if I bring 4 attorneys right now on the call, they will all order different sizes like they're doing pizza. It's like, I want it pretty precise. I want it 4 pages. I want it to be very direct. It's minimum policy. I don't want to fuss around, whatever. And then somebody else doesn't.
Look, Hamid, I think that the most important people that we should be talking to about what the demands should look like, why don't we go ask Allstate and State Farm and Geico and all those folks, all right, when you get these, what do you do with it? Because if all you do is throw it in the garbage and then take the medical records and dump it into your master system, then it tells me some of what we're doing isn't necessary. But if you actually do read the analysis and the ICD codes matter, then maybe I'm wrong. And, some of the bigger demands are helpful. But I think that's if we're going to be receiver oriented and understand that, like, maybe sometimes you write a demand for your client, you want to see them see the big number. But sometimes most of the time you're writing it for who's going to get it. It's going to be an insurance adjuster or a lawyer who's got to dissect it and say, this is bullshit. This is not. I need this information to write my report to my supervisor, my client, whomever, and get you ultimately, what do you care about? The money.
Sure. I have a connection with those kind of organizations because I come from data warehousing, data management background. I spent 20 plus years in Silicon Valley, and all of it was data management and reporting and data mining and so forth. I'm telling you what's going to happen in 2 years, which is probably going to blow up a lot of people's mind. The AI will going to generate everything. It gets massaged a little bit by the attorney. It goes into the insurance company and adjuster. They're going to shove that into another AI, and that AI is going to create a response back. So you're basically going to see these two. You guys are sitting on the sideline. These two AI going back and forth and come back with a settlement.
Look, Hamid, I'm gonna make 2 points on this. I think that it's already happening because I know the conversations I'm having with the adjusters. And they say, wait a minute, I got to put a number in here, and then it'll spit out a new authority level, and then you got to give me another number, so I know what's happening. The system is telling them what they can and cannot do. They've taken some of the ability, some of the art of it, taken out of the adjuster's hands. It's more of a science. So there's that. The other part of it is, I think if I were a defense lawyer billing by the hour, I would be looking for some other way to generate revenue, because I think that AI is going to cut the knees out when the insurance company says, why am I paying for Medcrons by a human? Why am I paying for you to analyze this thing or that thing when the computer can do it?
Oh, computer can do it, and you'll be surprised what they're doing right now. Because I used to do 25 years ago, I used to do a project for American Express, which was all database oriented, because they do risk analysis. When somebody applies for a credit, all of a sudden the system tells them exactly who this person is, how much money they should credit. By the way, with the 85% accuracy, 85%, 25 years ago, we could predict with the 85% accuracy that when you're going to default on your credit at American Express. And this is 25 years ago when we had very limited data. So you can imagine what they can do now. So the thing about the AI and adjusters, what they do right now that you mentioned, they have a data entry point where they enter certain numbers and conditions in there. And then on the other side, the system already knows Lee Rudin's experience, settlement records, judgments, everything else, and then it spits out the number that says this is a floor and this is a ceiling. So it starts with the floor and says, I'm offering you $10,000, that's the floor. And they say 25,000 is the ceiling, right? So they play with you on that. They do that now. But what they're going to do later to get rid of all of this defense and also adjusters and all this other system, they're just going to take your demand automatically. When you send it, it goes into their AI, and their AI will do everything already to 10x and comes back and does the whole settlement negotiation with you. So you're basically just watching TV, basically just watching these two AIs just talking to each other back and forth, and they're bargaining with each other, they're threatening each other. I'm going to file a complaint if you don't. I mean, the good attorneys will just be in the court or watching the TV for this stuff happening. So that's my prediction of where this AI and the both sets goes.
But I think somebody made a good point the other day, and it's on the topic of AI, and they said if you're not using it, you're already behind.
Yes.
So you want to be afraid of it. You can be afraid of it all you want, but that's like saying, many moons ago, I don't want to have Lexis or Westlaw because I like going to the law library and combing through volumes of books.
Right.
You can like it all you want, but it's not going to stop internet research from coming, just like you not liking AI or being distrustful of it is not going to stop it from coming. It's here, and it is a very effective tool when used the right way.
A lot of attorneys, when I started doing this, they said, you should do the demand writing AI. And I said, look, I can't do that. It needs to be the entire practice AI, because I can't expect an attorney or a law office to subscribe and log into like 15 different tools and AIs and platforms to get the job done. That's why we choose to do the entire process. So when people are adopting to law practice AI, they're going to know that we're going to take care of it from end to end, from client generation, document collection, intake, demands, summaries, the entire thing, all the way to litigation support. So our platform eventually will have all of those modules built in, where it just basically sits on top of your existing CRM, being FileVine, Clio, Litify, whatever. So you're basically on dashboard-based system. You're managing the entire practice with two platforms, CRM and AI.
I think that once the tools all talk to each other the way they're supposed to, that to me is going to be the game changer. Because what ends up happening, the way what you're describing seems like it might be the be all end all, but what ends up happening is you get this AI tool over here doing something great. But then the clunkiness and the clutter comes when you're trying to bring it into your system where you are operating the whole firm. Right. And so those integrations are going to be critical so that I'm not telling paralegal over here, all right, you did the medical chronology. Now go download it, move it, save it over here, drop it in. Like that it's wholly inefficient.
Right. In about, I would say in the next few months, we will have the API integration to the major CRMs, like I mentioned. So there is no download, upload, whatever. When the document appears into one of the CRMs, it gets extracted, summarized, put right back in place. The demand is generated, goes back into your CRM and places it right in there. So there is a full API integration between these tools, between the AI and the CRMs and any other support tools, because it needs to be in one place. You cannot expect anybody to log into 5 places.
Look, I think, Hamid, I know the way that my foldering, for argument's sake, is structured in FileVine. The second that I can connect a folder to your tool and say, okay, every time there's a document in this folder, it goes to the police report column of the AI, demand generator. Everything in medical bills goes over here. Medical records goes over here. Then I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just dumping it in, and I just hit the button, and it's ready to go.
Yes, that's exactly where we're going. We started by doing it not integrated into this platform, sometimes technically difficult or operationally difficult. But so we started doing this thing like you just used our system. You're happy with the results. You're happy with the summaries. You're happy with the cost and so forth. And the next stage, which is in the next few months, the integrations will be completed into those CRMs. So you don't have to move any files around. I will even make a recommendation how your file structure needs to be in the Clio or FileVine so we know where to grab it. So we tell them just like this, the way you set up yours. It says medical bills goes here, medical record goes over here, the notes goes over here, police reports goes over here. So we know exactly where the things are to go grab it, write the demand, and send it.
Seems to make too much sense to me.
Yeah, so that's definitely right. Well, yeah, I love to continue speaking with you. Me and you can talk for a while. We'll probably see each other at the Pilma conference if you come. I think that's me and you met a couple of times in New Orleans.
Oh, every time. I like it better when you come to New Orleans. I can't make it to Denver this time around, but you let me know when you're coming back.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining us. It was a great time, and thanks for your input, and thanks for your continued support. We appreciate it.
Always. Right. Thank you, Hamid. Appreciate it.